Welcome to Grit Meets Growth, the podcast where we explore getting uncomfortable, making things happen, and creating a magnetic life. Now let's get after it. Hey guys, this is John Gamatis, and I'm here with my good friend Chris Cathers. We're excited to have you join us for this first episode of the Grit Meets Growth podcast. This is something we've been talking about for a long time. We've wanted to bring this to you for a long time, and now we're here. Episode number 1. So with that, let's get started. So let's talk a little bit first about how we got connected. We connected through a network. We got introduced through Jamie. We were able to take that connection, started doing some work together, learned a little bit about each other's businesses, and things kind of flowed from there. We've been having conversations ever since. So
absolutely. And I remember that, I was starting up my own company and needed some help to kind of pull out some information that was in my head to be able to put on paper. I remember reaching out to Jamie, and she made the introduction. And I knew pretty quickly in our conversation that, and I think I said this to you, I said, I knew pretty quickly that you and I were going to be friends. Like, we had very similar thought process, the way we view the world, that whole mentality of, work hard to get what you want, be a strong role model, raise good kids.
Yep.
Those types of attitudes, right?
Yeah. It started, I feel like, with a lot of conversations that came back to how do you show up? Right. Like, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, as a husband, as a dad, as a leader, for your clients, like, how do you show up? And I think the thing we kept coming back to is if you can figure out how to show up, then the rest kind of just falls into place. But it starts there.
It does. Absolutely starts there. And I firmly believe that. As you and I have talked about numerous times, right? Really, over the course of the last year and a half, refocused on my fitness, found a gym that has a really great culture that I enjoy being part of, that I enjoy going to. And that focus on my fitness has now transcended across really my entire life. And part of the reason I feel that's been important for me is that it's that determination, right? It's about being there. It's about consistency, right? It's about showing up every day. And one of my mantras has been, over the last year and a half, show up, do the work, get results. Show up, do the work, get results.
Yep. And
that's the same in fitness as it is in your relationship with your spouse, as it is in your relationship with your business. You have to show up. You have to be consistent, and the results will follow. It's pretty simple. It's really a pretty simple combination when you break it down.
Well, and the consistency thing, I think, is, in my mind, one of the hardest parts. Like, you and I have talked about this, getting up to go to the gym in the morning. Sometimes it sucks. Sometimes you don't want to go. Sometimes the alarm clock goes off. You want to hit snooze and you want to skip, and you're really good at just getting up and going regardless. It's not optional. You're just going to go do it. And that consistency, I mean, it's not perfect, obviously, but the consistency thing is such a big deal. Like, it's not just how do you show up? How do you show up consistently, and what does that look like? So,
and it hasn't always been that way. And I think that's always the biggest challenge for people that are starting some new venture, some new workout. Well, I was talking to a guy yesterday. Well, I really want to start going to the gym. Just put the first foot in front, put one foot in front of the other. Yeah. Just do it. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be for an hour. It doesn't have to be anything other than making a commitment to yourself and going. And determining what that looks like. Is that one day a week to start out with? And it's one day a week and it's 20 minutes or a half an hour. You have to start somewhere, right? Everybody always wants to look at, whether it's people in a workout regimen and going every day to the gym, or, adjusting, your food intake and your diet, right? Or starting a new venture, right? They always want to look at what that end result is, without putting in the first step. And
Right.
you can't get to that end result if you don't put in the first step. So make a commitment and just do it. Go twice a week. I mean, when I started, I'm at 5 days a week, 6 days a week at the gym. And it started out at 2 days a week for a half an hour.
Yep.
And I'm there now 5 to 6 days a week for an hour and a half.
Right. But you built up to that.
But I built up to that, right? And that's what I'm saying. I didn't start there.
That's the same as when Christina and I ran Grandma's and decided we were going to do a marathon. I was not a runner when we decided we were going to do that. And it started with, I'm going to run a mile and I'm just going to get a mile done. And then we're going to build up to 2. And then all of a sudden you're running 10 miles. But even like day of, as when you're actually running the marathon, it's still a journey. It's still a matter of steps. Like, I'm just going to make it to that next mile flag. I'm going to get to that next mile. It never gets easy. Like, I think it gets easier sometimes, but when you're trying to do things that are like big, I don't think they ever get easy. The challenge is always there. It's how you show up for the challenge.
So there are plenty of days I try to talk myself out of going to the gym.
Right.
Right. There are days that I'm like, because I go early, right? I'm up at 4:30 a.m. right, between 4:30 and 4:45. That's my wake up time. And there are plenty of days where, I may have been out with a client or I was out with friends the night before. The next morning, I'm struggling. And I had this last Friday. I was like, I was out with friends on Thursday night. I was tired, I was dragging on Friday morning, and I tried so hard to talk myself out of going. I really did. I'm like, oh, you don't want to go today. It's, yeah, you've put in 4 days of hard work. What's, already this week. So what? Just let it go. And the other half of me was like, no, dude, you've committed to yourself that you're going 5 days a week. Get up. And honestly, for me, all it is putting my feet on the floor.
Yeah.
Once my feet hit the floor, it's all over. It's go time. And my body knows that, right? So all I have to do is convince myself to put my feet on the floor and the rest of it follows.
Absolutely. But you hit on something. Like, excuses are a dime a dozen. We all have 100 reasons why we could not do something. There's 100 reasons why I shouldn't have started a business, 100 reasons I shouldn't go to the gym, 100 reasons I shouldn't be a good dad. Like, there's excuses all over the place. You have to learn how to step around them, step over them, step through them, and say, no, I committed. I'm going to do this. And it's important to me. And I had a conversation today, actually, with a gym owner about that exact thing. And one of the things she said was, it's not necessarily about motivation. It's way more about your why. If you understand what your why is, why you're going to the gym, what you're trying to get out of it, why you're going to try and show up, and what the results are going to be on the back end of that, and you keep that in mind, that's where the wins come in, because that will get you moving in the morning. It will get you past the excuses and get you rocking. So
he clearly reads Simon Sinek.
Yeah, totally.
Start with why. That's the whole premise of it.
Yep. And there's a piece of it too that's grit related. That's why we named the podcast Grit Meets Growth. Like, if you want to grow, there's a lot of grit that's needed to get there, to get past those excuses. Grit's at the core of this whole thing.
It is.
So,
and being uncomfortable, right? I think that grit, and you have to have grit in order to embrace the suck, right?
Yeah.
Not everything's going to be pretty. Things are not always going to go the way you want them to go. Life is all about adapting and overcoming, right? There's a lot of uncomfortable space in that adapting and overcoming, right? Every one of us is going to hit a place where things are not going to be comfortable at all. And that in my experience, that has always been on the other side of that, where things really change.
Absolutely.
And we change, right? We change. And I was having this conversation with my business partner the other day. He's like, kind of struggling and working from home and, not being in client sites and all of these things, right? And just really in this kind of in a bit of a uncomfortable place. And we were just talking about how just look at what's going to be on the other side of this.
Yes.
Right? Look at what's going to be on the other side of you being uncomfortable at this point. and use that to drive you.
Yeah.
Know that there's light on the other side. I had I used to work for this company back years ago. I went to work for them. It was a family run company. They had us all down in Louisiana where the company was headquartered. We were down there for 3 weeks for training. Couldn't go home on the weekends, right? We're stuck in this training. And you really got to know your teammates and all of that stuff, right? It was a great experience. One of my big takeaways from that was the founder of the organization came in. You know, he always used that analogy, it's darkest before the dawn, right? And that really applies to that uncomfortable position, right?
Right.
Things are going to get tough. Things are going to be a challenge in your life, in your business, in your world in general. But just keep pushing, because on the other side of that darkness is the most amazing light. So focus on the light and just keep pressing, right?
Yeah.
Every step that you take moves you closer to that beautiful picture that you have in your mind.
One, and you hit on one of the things that's the most important is business partners. So whether it's business partners or good clients or the people you have in your circle, putting the right people around you to walk with you through that is huge, because it's all these journeys that we're on. None of us go through these alone. And especially when you hit the challenging parts, you can try and muster through them by yourself. But the reality of it is, if you have the right people around you and the right network and circle, it makes it 100 times easier. And in those moments where you're like, I'm just going to tap out, I think I'm done. I'm kind of ready to give up because this is really tough. And we all hit that, whether it's work, personal, whatever that is. Having those right people around you to like pick you back up is huge. And keep you on track. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Having a supportive group of network and friends is so important. It's become more, I think it's become more important as I've gone through life.
Yeah.
Having the right people. And the interesting thing that I always find, and my mom always said this to me when I was a young lad, friends will come and go from your life. And it's so true. Her follow-up to that was, friends will show up in your life when you need them most. You might not even know why you need that person in your life today, but they're there for a reason. Mm-hmm. They might not be there for a long time, or they may be there for a long time. You don't know what that's going to be, right? Mm-hmm. Embrace it when that opportunity presents itself, but you got to have awareness to be able to see when that is as well.
Well, and when you talk about awareness, I think it points back to all the things we're working on, all the things we're chasing, all the things we're trying to build. Mindset is so important as we're trying to do these things. If you surround yourself with positive people who are going to like lift you up and give and feed you the right messages, you're going to get there a lot faster than if you surround yourself with negative people who will drag you down, tell you the 15 reasons it's not going to work, it's not going to be successful, you're an idiot for even trying. I mean, we've all had people in our spaces that come at us from both sides, but starting to shed some of those voices that aren't quite as positive is important. And sometimes it's a matter of being really aware of your own voice too, because we're, as much as we're our own biggest cheerleaders, we can be our own biggest detractors too. So keeping your own head in check is equally important.
How do you do that? How do you overcome that? Everybody talks about the fact that there's so much negative, going on in our world today, and everything's negative. And so how do you realize where the positive is? How do you find that positive voice?
I think here's my take on that. I think you can feel it. Like, I've got certain people in my circle that I know if I talk to them at the end of that conversation, I'm going to feel stronger, more energetic, more excited about what's ahead. Right. And if you're aware enough to figure out who those people are, and then who some of the people are that you're not as excited about, or that you're not as excited after you talk to them, if you can split those into groups and start to spend more of that time with the people who are lifting you up and feeding you that positive energy. The other side of it is, take social media or take YouTube or take all of the TV, like the news, like starting to filter that out and looking at it being very aware of that and saying, okay, whenever I watch the 6 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock news, when I'm done, I don't feel better. I feel worse. I feel distracted. I feel more off track. Maybe I'm not going to watch that anymore. And maybe instead I'm going to put that energy into following somebody online or listening to something that's going to lift me up. And I know I'm going to get energized from it. I mean, we have all of this stuff coming at us all day long. And a lot of times we're not intentional about controlling what we're taking in. It just comes at us. And I think that's a big thing, is like being intentional about seeing it for what it is huge.
Right.
So how about you?
Yeah. I'm with you. You have to, there is so much positive out there if you really know where to look.
Absolutely.
But I also believe that starts right here, right? That starts with me.
Totally.
I have to be in a mindset of positive, right? And if I'm not, then I sure better seek that out, as to help get me there, right? But once I'm there, then I can foster and grow that mindset of positive. I saw this quote today, which really kind of talks about exactly what we're discussing here today. And I don't even know who it's from, but it says this: what is the excuse today, tomorrow, next week, next month? It gets old after a while. No one is going to hold your hand and walk you through life. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and get up on that horse after being kicked off. If you want someone to hold your hand through life, you won't get anywhere. Quit with the excuses and get things done. That's a personal mindset, right? You have to truly believe that. And there are so many people out there, when you start looking, that have that exact same approach to life. And I think, honestly, that's why you and I connected as we did from the get-go, is because of exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I realized that in you.
Yeah, totally. Same.
Man, it's been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to having this conversation and sharing it.
Absolutely. Well, and that was one of the reasons we decided to do this, is we've been having these awesome conversations that between the two of us, and we realized that exactly what we're talking about. There's a lot of negative energy in the world and a lot of negative stuff. And these conversations were super positive, and they really left me feeling more energetic when they were done. And to be able to take that and share it, and if there's a handful of people out there that get value from this and kind of pick up that same energy and can share it with somebody else, that's a win all day long. So it's not like either one of us needed an extra thing to do. We're plenty busy, but this seemed like an important thing to take on and share. So,
and there is this joy that comes from lifting people up too. And, I think you had shared with me some information, that Itzler had put out, right? Jesse Itzler.
Yeah.
One of the things that he does on a daily basis, he calls them his gratitude messages, and he does that every single day. He puts out 4 to 5 gratitude messages every day, and there's no expectation of anything in return.
Right.
And I've been doing that now for about a month, and it just is amazing the kind of conversations it sparks. People you haven't talked to in a while, but it just sets the tone just by going at it with gratitude. And of course, it's so simple today with what we have going on in the world, right? To totally say, hey, I hope all is well with you and your family, right? And maybe make some other statement, about, what's kind of going on, or looking at maybe some activity and things that they have happening on social media and just commenting on it. Give you one example. One of the gals in my network, I reached out and said hello to her. And I said, ma'am, you should be really proud of your daughters. And her daughters had both gotten a couple of internships, right?
Okay.
And just made that note, just in an effort to really make people feel good. Of course, she knows that, she's going to be proud of her daughters. But the fact that somebody else recognized that and took
Absolutely.
the time to recognize that, not on some post that she posted up there, but in an actual personal note to them, makes an impact.
How long does it take you to do that? Because you do it every day. How long, like how much time?
20 minutes.
Absolutely. It takes like no time at all. And it also in that process reminds us that we have a lot to be thankful for ourselves.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is. And it's like I said, it's a very rewarding process. It's, rekindled some conversation with folks I haven't talked to in quite a while. We live in this social media world, and a lot of times there isn't any interaction, right? People just scroll past what people have going on in their life. And I'm guilty of that myself. I'm not a big commenter on a lot of stuff. I don't necessarily even spend a lot of time on some of those platforms anymore. But being able to look at the information in those platforms and craft that personal message to them, not only does it remind me of what's important in life, but it actually shares some joy with them as well.
Well, and we do the same thing here. I mean, there's a habit that we've gotten into over time is dropping notes in the mail, like still like a little handwritten note. And it's kind of that same thing. They don't take much time to do, but you have to be intentional about it. You have to think about it. Yep. You have to like pick up your pen and write a little note and put a stamp on it. It takes some work, but not that much. And when somebody gets that on the other end, it makes their day, and it's simple. Yeah, it's
about my kids that handwritten thank you notes. You get some gift for your birthday. You get something from your Nana and Papa for Christmas. They're not able to be here. You write them a thank you note, right? And you send that off. Hard mail, snail mail.
Yeah,
not an email.
Old school.
Not a text.
Yeah,
handwritten thank you note.
Yeah,
and let them know that you appreciate that, right? That you are thankful for the gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you brought up Itzler, Jesse Itzler, just a second ago. And one of the other things I've picked up from him is, as much as we all want to think we're going to live till we're 90 or 100 or whatever that magic number is, right? There's no guarantees. There are no guarantees in life. And so to do whatever it is you want to do, start it today. Do it today. Don't put off writing that note and dropping it in the mail until tomorrow. Do it today. And make the most of today. And then tomorrow, make the most of the day. And then just repeat that. And we leave a lot on the table. And it's because we're busy and we've got a lot of distractions and there's a lot going on. But I feel like sometimes we leave a lot on the table, and sometimes we leave the most important things on the table. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think part of the challenge is just the world around us. We talked a bit ago about focusing on ourselves, right? I think the world as a whole can misconstrue that to be that you're selfish,
totally,
right?
Yep.
And it's not about being selfish. It's about taking care of yourself first so that you can take care of those around you. Lifeguards are taught to take care of them, take care of themselves first as they're taking care of that potential victim, right? If they're, especially you look at, California, right? And you look at, some of the, the docks and whatnot that are out in the water and the rocks that are out there, as they're and they may get themselves into trouble as they're rescuing somebody, but they always put the person they're rescuing between them and that obstacle because they have to protect themselves first. Let's get one that hits a little more close to home, right? Aircraft, right? Flying. When the flight attendants go through that message before every flight and that mask drops out of the ceiling, who puts the mask on first?
Me. Put my own on first.
And then on the other people.
Yep.
Right? And then help other people. You have to help yourself first. And I think that message gets a little bit lost in the world we live in today, right? But it's so important. And we're the only ones that can do that. We're the only people that care about ourselves when it really boils down to it.
Absolutely.
So if I can't take care of myself, how can I take care of anybody else?
You can't.
So get that mindset, right? Take care of yourself. Do what's right for you. The rest will follow. Firm believer in that.
Totally agree. Well, I'm excited to see where this goes. These have been great conversations that we've had up until now, and I'm excited to kick off Grit Meets Growth, have this podcast, record these conversations, and then, like I said, share them out, and hopefully somebody out there hears that one thing that they needed this week to kind of get back on track and put their mindset in the right spot. So
absolutely share our positive mindset and let other people be magnetized to that and do the same.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed today's episode of Grit Meets Growth. We have 2 asks for you as we wrap things up today. First of all, if you enjoyed this podcast or you got something out of it today, we'd love to have you subscribe and follow us so that you can get your ear in on more of these conversations. And the second thing we'd love to have you do is if you heard something today that you think could help somebody else or that they need to hear, we just ask you to share the podcast and let this message be magnetic to as many people as possible. So with that, have an awesome day, make it happen, get out there, do the work, and let's get after it.